The amazing thing about our bodies is that it's a tremendous gauge of pain and tolerance. How much we can endure and how much we need assistance in managing. However, of course, there is a general rule of thumb. The more active you are, the healthier the lifestyle you lead. I wanted to also bring some context to this discussion thanks to some statistics from Statistics Canada. The publication reports that 59.7% of Canadians rate their health as generally very good or excellent in 2021. Meanwhile, self-rated general health has remained relatively stable from 2015 to 2021. The portion of the population reporting good or excellent mental health throughout this time span has decreased from 72.4% in 2015 to 59% as of 2021. Gregory is the owner of From the Ground Up Physical Therapy. He's a believer that pain can act as your teacher. He helps people get to the root causes of their pain by encouraging them to move their entire body in new ways to wake up dormant muscles and movement patterns, rather than strictly focusing on the source of pain at the time, which in turn causes the body to work as a whole and finally relieves the site of the pain, allowing individuals to live fully active, meaningful, and dignified life free of pain. And Stern joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Greg, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to learn how to help people alleviate their pain and keep it moving, my friend. Great to see you, and thanks for a few minutes this morning, buddy.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, Greg, I know that your intense passion in life is to help people move and to get rid of their pain by encouraging them to move their entire body, my friend. So I'm wondering if we can start our conversation by you telling me what makes you so fabulous and why your work is your passion, my friend.
You say what makes me so fabulous? Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said. Absolutely.
I love it. Well, the way that I work is I really help people get to the root cause of their problem by teaching them how to move better rather than just using temporary Band-Aid solutions that keep the pain at bay just for a short little while. So when people often think about physiotherapy, they think about this idea that I'm going to go and lay on a table like a limp fish and I'm going to get massaged or manipulated, and that the therapist is there to fix me. And I think what makes me fabulous is that instead of telling and being truthful about this idea that my clients come to see me, I'm not there to be their fixer. I'm there to be their guide. And I'm there to help them get to the root cause of their problem by evaluating their movement limitations and reintroducing movement back into their body. So too often when we think about this idea of being the fixer, what happens is, the moment that they stand up from the table, they go back to the same movement patterns that got them back into the trouble in the first place. and the pain keeps coming back. Whereas I'm all about movement re-education, and I really get people with years and years that have chronic issues back to doing the things they love by reintroducing and empowering my clients to take responsibility of their health again.
From the ground up's chief mission is to help guide people through their own path of self-discovery on their health journey, to guide people to be pain-free and thrive in every aspect of their everyday life. And Stern took some time to go into greater detail on the mission, its vision, and why it's in place.
Yeah, so From the Ground Up Physiotherapy is a clinic in Montreal, but I'm also working with clients all over the world through Zoom and through online programs. And as I mentioned, I'm really about connecting people back to their bodies, about teaching them movement, about getting people mimicking the demands of their life with the exercise that I provide. Like oftentimes when people go for physical therapy, they're often receiving these isolated bandage stretches or exercises that don't really mimic what their body is supposed to do in real life. And what I'm all about is teaching people to squat, to bend, to move in 3 dimensions and get people back to doing the things they love, and then eventually progressing them to a point where they're actually stronger before they came in. Now, I have a quote behind me. It's called by Conor McGregor, actually, and it says, "An injury is not just a process of recovery; it's a process of discovery." And my aim with people when they come to see me is that I'm reconnecting them back to their inner child nature of movement again. And so that's where my practice is fun and unique, and I'm working with 8-year-olds up to 85-year-olds and everyone in between. And it more or less looks like personal training sessions done in a very attention-specific way to details to make sure the whole body is working in unison rather than their painful area taking on too much load. So that's what my practice is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gray, let's dive into the concept of self-discovery and really giving you the opportunity to tell me how you've used that term on a broader scale, my friend. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think, pain is a very powerful motivator and it's a very strong teacher. So when people are in pain, they usually have a couple options. When most people are in pain, let's say I reach up overhead and, my shoulder hurts me. And so I can ignore it, or, let's say I'm going to wait for it to go away. And the thing is, when we live in a modern world where pain is often offered any sort of quick fix solution, like take a painkiller, we have all these magic pills and potions to get rid of pain. But I invite people to consider that pain could actually be your teacher. Instead of thinking about killing pain, we need to listen to pain. And I think that the journey of self-discovery, of going more inside yourself, of understanding why the pain is there. Maybe there's a lot of stress in your life. Maybe you just been moving poorly and you're just been ignoring it. And it's because you've been exhibiting a very static life. And so when we can open up the lens and understand that pain is there for a reason, it's not meant to be killed, but rather meant to be listened to and guided by someone who could help you interpret that pain, then it really takes you on a new journey where you are responsible for taking care of your body. And that self-discovery can, again, make you a better human as you go through the process of getting out of the pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you about it is because I was born with cerebral palsy, and as you know, if I don't move my muscles, they contract faster than most people. So tell me about the importance of movement, my friend, and why we should all value movement as one of the pillars of our physical and mental life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think of a pond versus a river. Ponds are stagnating, they kind of smell sometimes, and people are not attracted towards necessarily gross ponds. But a river that has constant flow is something where life is, there's abundance of life near rivers. And I think our bodies are the exact same way. We live in a modern lifestyle where we can literally sit at home all day long and, click on Uber Eats and click here and click there, and all of a sudden there's food in front of us. We could have, all of our needs met. But unfortunately, one of the biggest needs that's not being met is the pumping of our muscles, the pumping of fluid, and that river-like idea that we should be outdoors moving and in line with nature. Fortunately, my job is very active. I'm always demonstrating the exercises. But to me, there's nothing like being on vacation where the moment I wake up, and I was in Europe this summer, and the moment I wake up, I'm outside and I'm moving slowly throughout the day. And that's really the key, is that we have consistent, slow moving movement throughout the day, as opposed to this culture that's like, all right, I'm going to sit 15 hours a day and then I'm going to bang out a big workout. And yeah, that's great that we're into this culture of, getting in your fitness. But more important than just generalized fitness is just like walking, moving, bending, sitting on the floor, using your body in all its possible ways throughout the entire day, rather than just this like one workout period that we tend to, focus on and put most of our attention towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, as I shared with you, one of the tenets that I live my life by is always active, my friend. I challenge myself to be at least 10 minutes active physically each and every day. And I'm curious, from your perspective, the value of being active and being consistent with your active movement. How important do you think consistency in terms of active movement and therapy is, my friend?
100%. It's like it's better to be, show up every single day for those 10 minutes than try to do it like once a week and then, fall off the wagon. So definitely consistency is key. And, one of the things that we often don't attribute, we all understand the concept of compound interest, right? This idea that, money grows with time. And a very easy way of understanding that, good movement or consistent movement adds up. I heard this analogy once. Like, imagine I give someone 5 minutes every single day to smoke as many cigarettes as possible, down as much Coca-Cola as possible. But you only have 5 minutes to do all these horrible behaviors, right? Just like go for it. But then maybe after one day, you'll feel like a little crappy. But then you do that day after day after day. Like 7 days later, after smoking those 5 minutes of cigarettes and, Coca-Cola, whatever it is, your body's not going to feel good. Now, on the flip side, 5 to 10 minutes every day of good movements. Let's say you have a little, stretching movement routine that takes your muscles through their full range of motion. Maybe after one day, you don't feel a big difference. But if you show up day after day, that compounds, it adds up. So bad behavior compounds, good behavior compounds. And so consistency is certainly, what helps our bodies move forward with momentum in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, one of the greatest things in life for me is exercise. I find it to be exhilarating, my friend. So tell me, why do you think consistent exercise can be exhilarating, my friend?
Well, I think it comes down to the exact same thing. It's just like, doing things that you love. Like, not everyone needs to connect to like necessarily physical exercise in the same sense of the word, right? That word means different things to different people. Like going to the gym might be what a lot of people resonate with, or for some, it's just going for a run or gardening or whatever it might be. So it's really, the key thing is like connecting back to this real deep knowing from, millions of years of evolution that we're active movement beings. And endorphins are released when we go about doing exercise, and that's like a self-fulfilling thing because our body knows it's good for us, and it releases compounds that make our bodies feel good, our brains feel good. And so it's just a matter of helping people like find the right things that work for them, and then for sure it's just going to keep being like something that makes you keep showing up day after day.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, as you know, as we trend towards the end of the calendar year, my friend, one of the most common New Year's resolutions is losing weight and getting exercise, my friend. But as you know, people's attention spans and commitment levels are sort of short. So for anyone watching or listening to this podcast that really wants to take control of their physical health, what are some easy steps that people can take if they really want to take ownership of their physical health and movement, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
For sure. I think one of the key things is to recognize that overhauling changes like New Year's resolutions rely on this concept of willpower. And willpower alone doesn't get people showing up. And so people have to become very clear on their why. Why do they want to make these changes? Because if it's because their wife or their husband wants them to make these changes, usually they don't stick. So it usually comes down, instead of trying to overly drastically change your life like all of a sudden on a dime, it's again comes down to this idea of small simple steps, right? There's a lot of new habit books that are out there, Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, and it comes back to this concept that things compound. So don't try too much all at once, because usually what happens is you're great for 2 weeks and then you just revert back. But if you start small and just show up every day and do something really, basic, that would be the key thing to making changes. What I'm doing with my clients when I'm asking them to make behavior changes, because that's when they come to see me, I make sure I give them, 2, 3 things that they could do consistently rather than doing too much. So that certainly would be the number one thing I'd say to start with, is that you can't the psychology of behavior change is almost more important than what you actually do. So getting yourself to understand like why you want to make the changes is very, very important, and then starting small.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, I know you have some thoughts on the whole victim mentality when it comes to physical fitness and physiotherapy, my friend. And I'm a big believer is that we make time for the things in life that we prioritize. So tell me about the importance of making your physio or physical health a priority, and how do you help people get over the victim mentality as well?
Yeah, well, one of the things that when people come into my clinic and I say, how's your body feeling? Like how are things been since last week? And if someone comes in having not done their exercise, they almost sometimes will feel a sense of shame in telling me, or maybe they'll just outrightly tell me, and it is what it is. And I say, like, look, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you. And one of the things that's key to understand is that, like, as we're mentioning, behavior change is tough. And so if someone's taking, I just don't have enough time. It's like, look, everyone has 24 hours in a day, and we need to prioritize, as you mentioned, what's important to them. But it's almost guiding them through a step-by-step process by like getting a bit more concrete with their schedule. Like, tell me where you could fit this 3-minute routine into your day-to-day life. Like actually holding them by the hand and helping them see where they can actually put in. Is it something you could do for 3 minutes before you eat lunch, or before you brush your teeth in the morning or nighttime? So it's just about approaching it in a non-judgmental way, and recognizing that, like, we're here to do this together. And like, of course, you're in pain, and this is why you're in pain, is because of the movements you've been exhibiting, and we want to obviously change that. But if I approach in a very open way with that individual, then usually we can eradicate those like victim beliefs about like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't have the time. And you just, you make the steps very small and slow, and usually that momentum starts to build, and then that's when they start to develop more consistency and start to take ownership of their lives and their bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, from a personal and professional standpoint, I'm curious how you view the concept of accountability and commitment, building on what we just talked about. How do you view those two concepts and words from a personal and professional standpoint?
Yeah. So what were the two words you said? Accountability and
Commitment, yeah.
commitment. Yeah. Well, I mean, that showing up for yourself is important. Like, for me, I know I need to like get in my training or my workout or my movement every day. And it again comes down to making sure that I'm doing things that I enjoy doing. The accountability piece, it's just so baked into my psychology at this point that like I don't necessarily need a partner to be accountable to, but oftentimes having a community around you is what makes people accountable to show up to a workout, to do your movements, to make any sort of behavior change. For me, I've been very disciplined my whole life. Probably, it could come from a place of at a deeper level of thinking at a certain point that like my value comes from all my actions, and I'm learning to dissociate that. But I connect to just being committed to my work because it brings me a big reward every day to have people that have been around the houses trying all sorts of different solutions, and when they come to see me, they're better within within weeks, months of having years and years of chronic pain. So the commitment comes from just serving other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, let's talk about tracking progress from a physical or a physiotherapy perspective. How can people really know that they're making a progress as they go on a physical or a physiotherapy journey? What's the key to tracking progress in your
Well, the
opinion?
key thing is like it all depends on what your goals are. So like, usually when people are coming to see me, it's often because they're in pain. And so I have different measures that I use. Simple tests like where they touch their toes, they bend side to side, they rotate, they extend backwards. And I often do test retest where I'm doing certain exercises with them. And then after the fact, I'm checking how these things feel. So, and I also do different things on the table where I'm checking their strength to see like what are the changes that are happening pre and post a certain exercise that we do, to see what the changes are. But if you're not with me, it's just kind of like, all right, well, like how is your body feeling after you're doing something? It's just checking in a bit more. I mean, obviously, if you're in the realm of like weight loss or fat loss, I don't think the scale is the best measure, to be honest. I think that a lot of people get obsessed with scales, and I think a better measurement is like waist circumference and hip circumference, because the scales don't often tell us, well, maybe I'm putting on muscle, losing fats, and so it's all about being specific with what actually things you're trying to change, and then having a couple key measures to look at. But when it comes to like with my clients, the interesting thing is that if I give the right intervention, there will be an immediate change from the nervous system. Meaning, like, if all of a sudden I used to test out their leg strength and they felt their back, and all of a sudden they feel their leg instead of their back, well, I know I'm on the right track here. And now it's just a matter of feeding that movement into their body by them putting in more reps in practice. So that's kind of the long answer on tracking.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, I'm fascinated to ask you from a personal perspective, what brings you the most joy in life?
What brings me the most joy in life is moving outdoors with my bare feet on the grass, staring at a lake or a mountain, or doing hikes outside. For me, I'm into a practice called rope flow, and if the audience wants to look it up, rope flow is basically the idea of that instead of skip rope, I take a rope and I use it to create these figure of eight patterns. And it's something that it's a more recent practice, but you could just think about the idea of a belly dancer or a dog that has a very sexy spine that moves well. The idea of a rope flow is that it's like you're swinging a rope in an underhand and overhand patterns, and there's lots of cool patterns that you can learn over time, but it just helps me get into this very big flow state where I'm just moving in very rhythmical patterns. I do that. I go slacklining, so I walk between trees on a suspended line. So I'm into all these more interesting movement modalities that develop these interesting flow states where you're in these like very zoned in states where nothing else really matters, and you're really in the moment, in the present.
Well, Greg, no one will ever accuse you of not having a sense of adventure, okay?
That's it.
And Greg, tell me, what's the best part about helping people and alleviating their pain? What's the best part of your job, my friend?
Well, I think it's the light bulb moments. It's like it's someone like, oh, wow, like week after week they come as like, I can't believe I could do what I could do. And so there's certainly a reward in receiving the feedback and just seeing someone smiling as they're moving again, whereas before they came in tentative and guarded, and now all of a sudden their body's more open, they're more excited, they want to share this with their family, they want to go out and play again or do whatever it is they could do. They're back to playing with their kids, whatever it is. So, I'm really about helping people connect back to their why and actually achieving that. I think that, rehab is really not meant to be this like never ending process, but rather something that like the rehab turns into performance over time. And once people start looking at their weaknesses as potential, and then they start tapping into that potential, that's when things get exciting for me and for my clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, how do you think optimizing physical and mental health can be a positive contributor to the rest or the rest of the aspect of our lives? So, how does optimizing physical health help to optimize the other areas of our life?
Well, look, I mean, a very simple example would be like think about COVID times where people were isolated in their apartments and not moving. People's bodies started to fall apart, and everyone was living the Zoom life. But now, like, imagine your whole day spent inside versus your day starting in a park and going for a 20-30 minute walk. Like, you're going to just have a completely different outlook. Your energy changes. You'll smart thinkers back in the day, you think about Einstein, like he had a problem, he would go for a walk. And so walking and movement promotes, blood flow to the brain. It's going to promote more creativity, more connection, more ideas. And so it's just, we have very positive feedback loops that exist inside of our body that enjoy the exercise, and our bodies, and our brains become lighter with the movement that we perform.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, if you had to write a mission statement for your life, what do you think you would include in that mission statement and why?
I would say there's no such thing as a mistake, and that everything that happens in life is an opportunity to learn from it. There's lessons that can be gathered out of everything. Pain is a teacher. And I learned this firsthand because one of the reasons I'm here where I am today is I dealt with years and years of chronic pain in my own feet. And at the time, I was very, very depressed because I couldn't do the things I love to do anymore. And I viewed it in a very horrible way. Fast forward 10 years later, after dealing with all those pains, I took a big dive into the self-discovery and understanding of the body, and I don't have any more pain. And I'm also the owner of a clinic that helps people now get out of pain. So it all depends on perspective. And, in certain timeframes, if we look at points of our life, we can look at them as like bad, quote unquote. But is it bad, or is it a stepping stone for something else if you can reframe? So I think it's really important that people can view if they open up their eyes to the possibilities of everything being a teaching lesson, then a lot of nice things can change in their life.
Yeah, and Greg, I'm asking this question for a selfish reason and to motivate myself. And I'm asking this knowing that everybody's bodies are different and everyone's physical circumstance is different. But for people like me with disabilities from a physical perspective, what are some common exercises or movements or patterns that we can develop that can help improve our physical health, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not sure the full extent of your movement limitations. Are you able to walk? I'm not sure, like, because I certainly could comment knowing a bit more. Are you walking, or is that something that's tough for you?
Yeah, so Greg, to give you some more context, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. It simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. So I use a walker to get around. I also use a wheelchair, but
Yeah.
um, physical movement is important to me because,
Yeah.
as I said, my muscles contract faster. So things I do to stay active are I walk with a walker like half an hour to 45 minutes. I lift weights and I go swimming, and that's sort of how I keep myself
Those are all
fit,
fantastic. Yeah. I mean,
physically physically accountable. So yeah, what are some ways that I can elevate my game? I guess is the question.
well, no, that all sounds super. I mean, one thing I would suggest, I don't know if like you ever kick off your shoes and go barefoot when you walk. Well, let's say you were at a park, instead of only walking with shoes, that actually maybe connecting your feet to the ground more would be something interesting. That would be something that like I suggest to all my clients, and I don't think you're any different in that sense, is that like we lose connection to our feet and the feeling of our feet when we're often wearing very thick cushioned footwear, and our feet are like a sensor that are meant to be connected to the ground, or very close to the ground. So that would be one thing. I mean, another thing that I'm doing as a training thing is I often do crawling. So like learning to crawl or connect to that, like we'll get these contralateral patterns going, meaning like the opposite side of the body is working together. And because all 4 points of because your feet, your knees, your hands are all on the ground, you'll have better balance. And so these are some just different things to explore that I would suggest maybe giving a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you're located in Montreal, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So tell me, what's the best part about being Canadian or living in Canada, my friend?
We have 4 seasons, that's for sure. So a lot of
That's
people,
the truth, isn't
yeah,
it?
right now, it's getting a little cooler, but the leaves, like maybe not directly in Montreal, but the leaves like a half hour out of the city are like absolutely beautiful yellows, oranges, reds. So it's really, really nice. Get to experience winter. So I do cross country skiing and alpine skiing, and the summers are gorgeous. And there's a fun energy to Montreal as well. Um, so yeah, I think just having the access to all season. I mean, I would say our winter is a little bit too long, and it's -20 in January and February. So it's it's definitely hard to endure at times with having less light during these times of the year. But as if you make the best of the seasons, then like you enjoy yourself. So it's a matter of bundling up and having the right equipment. And yeah, that's I guess my answer to that.
Yeah, and Greg, I'm a big believer in finding your inner center when everything, from a life perspective, kind of crashes down or caves in on you. I'm a big believer in finding your inner center, really reconnecting with your passion and purpose. So, would you have 10 minutes to yourself? How do you reconnect with yourself and really recommit yourself to your passion and purpose?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of slowing down again, like as much as it has. Well, I guess to the outsider might sound hippy dippy, but I'm getting my feet on the grass almost every single day. And like this morning and yesterday morning, talking about just reconnection, it's like starting a day off slow and just breathing and not having distractions and being in nature is really what helps me reconnect. I think that's like something that we often lose touch with, is that in a park, yeah, parks are great, but like you still see the streets, and there's like mountains in the middle of Montreal, like a tiny little mountain that I go to almost 3 or 4 times a week just to kind of recenter and refocus. So I think nature is always the healer for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, my final question for you this morning has to do with your own personal and professional legacy, my friend, and how you want your legacy to be defined.
That's a very good question, because I've been thinking, my father often thinks about that, like, how do you want to be remembered? And I think, I heard this author, Naval Ravikant, talking about this. And in all honesty, the reality is that none of us are going to be remembered. And that what that makes me do is think more presently, because if I'm always yeah, like for sure, I want to abide by certain principles where I'm always true to myself and I'm always present. And I think that's the most important thing. I think that oftentimes we're living a life where we think, we're presenting an outward projection of who we think we want others to perceive us to be. But if we're just more true to ourselves and our inner nature, that's kind of like, I don't think too much past that. And I think that, like, as human beings, we often are afraid of our own mortality. And I think that that causes us to, want to think about a legacy. And of course, I don't have any children yet, but for sure I'm going to want to impart lessons and be remembered by my children and my grandchildren. But then, beyond that, what happens, like, I don't know who my great grandfather was and great great grandfather. So life is finite. And so it's important to be present.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Greg, tell me if people want to get connected with you and the good work that you do from the ground up. What's the best way they can do that, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm very active on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at Ground Up Physio. So it's Ground Up, and then Physio is Physio. I also have a movement program that's available online that teaches the exact same exercise that I'm teaching to my clients here on a daily basis, that help people with years and years of chronic pain who've claimed to have tried everything. And I'm helping them get out of pain with this same system that I've packaged into an online program that people could do in the comfort of their own home. So if people are interested in a guided approach that's simple to do, but is really going to teach your whole body to work in unison, I would definitely encourage them to check it out. And you could find that if you go to Instagram and you go to the link in the bio, you'll find that available. So it's Ground Up Physio, and definitely encourage people to reach out. If people are also looking for one-on-one help, I do Zoom as well. So I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Well, Greg, I have to tell you, I'm delighted that you agreed to engage in conversation with me today. I want to commend you for the good work that you do to keep people active, healthy, and moving, my friend. Your work in the space of physical fitness and physio is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me today.
Well, thanks, Kevin, for having me. I appreciate it, and great questions.